guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Rodimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the XTransbots 2.0 version of Ollie, which is their interpretation of a masterpiece style wheelie. For the package, you can see it's actually fairly small. I mean, using my hand, you can see it is pretty tiny. But on the front of the package, you got images of Ollie as well as his vehicle mode. Some weird sticker thing that's on the bottom covering up some of their other stuff. And then on the back of the package, you got an image of some of their other figures that they've released, kind of in a real-life sort of look. You also have a brief read-up as well as tech specs, so if you'd like to read that, go ahead and pause and you can read it right now. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Okay guys, so here we have Ollie open up and out of its packaging, and as I said, this is actually the second version that XTransbots has made for us. The first came out a couple years ago, and this just absolutely blows that original one away. I think they list 18 things that have been improved. So that kind of gives you an idea of just how bad that first version was. The overall look on this just is really very, very cool. A lot of people have always praised it for being a very accurate representation of Wheelie. Just nobody liked the overall quality or transformation of that original figure. It just was not fun. This is actually a lot better. First, in terms of his accessories, you can see that you have the instruction manual right here, which is kind of like a little tiny booklet that you can flip through. And then you do get a little collector card that is made out of really heavy-duty plastic, almost like it's a credit card sort of thickness. You got an image of Ollie on the front, and then on the back you have his bio that was on the back of the package, as well as his tech specs. And then you also do get a nice silver gun, real nice sculpt work on there actually, and then the silver really does look very cool as well. And then he also does come with a slingshot that can actually be stored here in vehicle mode. You got this little piece, you can detach this, and you can see it just pegs in there, and then you put that back just like so. This can also store in the top section here. You just peg that right on the top, but that looks a little bit silly if you ask me. Now he also does come with replacement parts here for his chest. If you don't like that color, you get a little bit more of this clearish one, although it's not really clear. It's kind of pinkish, I guess, and then it's a little bit opaque. You can kind of see through it a little bit. I guess it's personal preference on what color you want. I think that looks perfectly fine. And then you also do get a couple different faces that honestly they basically look the same. I don't really know what's different in terms of the paint. One looks like it's actually painted and it looks like it could get easily scratched. This one here on the right looks like it's actually molded in the gray plastic, so I don't know exactly what the deal is with this. But one thing that you also do get, there was a bit of a delay in actually this shipping out because they gave replacement thighs right up front. There were quality control problems. You can see this is the original thigh here. It was getting a lot of chipping and a lot of scraping. And luckily, before this even kind of went out to people, they recognized this as a problem and they sent replacement thighs to various retailers so that when you ordered this guy, these were also automatically included. So it delayed this a little, but I'm glad to see that they actually went ahead and did that. Honestly, Ollie was a figure that I really liked the look of, but because of the quality, it has turned me off considerably to XTransbots. But as you can see, this is the new guy. Now, I still can't quite get the transformation right. I know exactly what I'm doing wrong, or it comes down to the little knees not being collapsed all the way to be able to push that all the way up, but I don't really care. But here's the comparison to the original. I've always had the original. I never reviewed it because I never liked it. And it was always very difficult to actually try to film a review on it, but you can see that this is a little bit more of this matte kind of paint, whereas, well, that's not all the way down, it's just kind of blah, but you can see a little bit more of a glossy kind of finish on the new guy. The new one also does feature die-cast parts, which really does increase the overall kind of heft and durability of it. One thing that I'm also noticing is that the plastic quality on the new guy is much better. This, every time you would transform it, and I forgot how bad this was to transform, it felt like something was going to snap. It constantly had stress mark issues The plastic just felt thin. The wheels were always too tight, so they couldn't actually roll. They actually fixed that here. The arms right in the back section here, these are some of the things that they've improved. These never tabbed anything. They just kind of sat there like that and kind of looked ugly, to be totally honest. This now actually tabs in. It's like they took everything that they did wrong in this and refined it to make a basically perfect version. Something that has taken considerable amount of time, but I think it paid off fairly well. And as you can see, I mean, they got a really nice looking representation of Wheelie here. This looks, well, I'm flipping it around, and there's the underside, but this really does look very, very cool. You got some nice taillights here. When you put the slingshot in the back, you also get some extra color there, which looks pretty cool. You got some nice kind of gunmetal gray in the rim area. You got some yellow for the turn signals. Got some nice silver paint right up in the front here for the grill. Again, that's not kind of squeezed together as best as it can be, but you get the kind of idea. All in all, though, I mean, I'm really very happy with this. Like I said, without question, they have improved it with this guy. For another comparison, because I know I never actually reviewed this guy when it first came out, here he is next to the Masterpiece Bumblebee. And as you can see, he's a little bit shorter, but is definitely wider than him. And in general, scale-wise, I think that he comes across fairly nicely. Now for this transformation, if you didn't remove the weapons, go ahead and do that now. Like this back section here, you just take this and slide this out. Obviously, if you had the gun in here, you would just unpeg it. Then you come down here to the front. You want to first lower these little pieces, just kind of get those out of the way, and then take this whole front section and attach this. These are going to become his legs, and you want to free him up from the rest of the body. Then once that's done, you can then wiggle these out, just like so, and kind of spin those around. Come around here to the back so you can kind of see a little bit better. You want to rotate this, and then you have two hinges here for the knee, so kind of hinge that where it's going to be straight. I don't have that screwed in all the way. And then you come around here, you rotate this, and then you spin this around and fills in that top section here of the lower part of the leg. Take this, rotate this down, and then you spin this around kind of at the same time, and this piece here then slides into the lower section of the leg. Rotate the foot out, and you got a little, it's kind of hard to get to, so I'm going to bring in a little wedging tool and just pull this out. Now, for the most part, the leg transformation here is the exact same that it was on the first version. Like I said, it did benefit from having a die cast put in here. It's a little bit more durable. Plus, it also now has a second knee joint there, which just improves the overall functionality of it. The other leg, you can never get that really straight, and I'll show that here in a little bit. Also, this little heel spur. Then you come around here, you want to actually kind of lift these up, kind of get these little pieces out of the way, and then you rotate this right like so, and then you spin the leg all the way around at the upper part of the thigh. Then you put that back down, kind of covering that area, and then you do the same thing on this leg. And when you're done, this is basically what you will have it looking like. Then this top section here can get a little bit tricky. This part right here is also new. First, we're going to remove that. I guess you could have left that up. These arms now tab in, which they didn't do previously. You got a little kind of peg right here on this side of the actual arm that slots into a hole right here. So pull those apart and then just kind of swivel those down, get those kind of out of the way like that. And then you actually take them and rotate them down here at what is going to become the shoulder. And this part here, this is what I was kind of talking about. It gets a little bit tricky. The plastic quality is a lot better. This is kind of what I was talking about, like on the previous version, felt very fragile and would really feel like you were going to snap it every time. So first, just kind of angle this out, get that as far back as you can. You can see you got a little hinge here, so you just want to pull that back. And part of the problem is a lot of this kind of gets in the way of other parts. So you then take this, rotate this around, do that on both sides, obviously, and then you got to take this and you kind of have to force it past these arms, and then you bring them up like that. But you can see there isn't a lot of clearance right here, so you literally do bend it out, and that's where you kind of feel as if something, even still on this, isn't quite right. I mean, you can, like I said, kind of hinge that and kind of get it out of the way, but you still have to get it to clear this whole area right here. So it's still not perfect, but because the plastic quality feels better, it doesn't feel as delicate as it did. We're going to spin these arms out, just kind of get them out of the way, get the head, bring this up just like that, and then you can spin that around just like so. Take this whole section, then swivel this around towards its back and get these arms kind of pushed up as far as you can. Then bring this whole back section down And again, lifting these arms just to kind of get them out of the way so that you can see what's going on. You got little tabs here on the sides of his waist. The wheels actually kind of lock in there. You got this little sliding mechanism here that this whole section on the outside of the car slides in. So push that in a little bit, then bring that down and kind of line it up here. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. You're supposed to take this little butt flap, fold that down like that. So you bring this around and then you put those little wheels where those tabs are and then just continue to push the little outsides of the car along that little rail on the inside there, and you'll get it actually locking into place there really nicely. Then you can take this little other butt flap, tuck that up just like so, rotate these arms down, spin or lift this section out, rotate the hands. One thing that I actually really like also for an improvement that they did is they put little tiny notches on here so you can actually rotate the hands out. That's something that the other version didn't have. That drove me nuts and made it very difficult to get the hands out. So then straighten this out, and there you have Ollie, aka Masterpiece Wheelie, in his robot mode. Now, while the actual look for the figure doesn't change too much from the original release, the different design changes have been implemented to this figure aesthetically make it a much better overall figure than that first one. I never had a problem with the look. I think that this absolutely looks like Wheelie. I think that XTransbots did a terrific job in recreating the look of the character. They just, in the first attempt, really failed to execute the figure. Going back and retouching on some of those different pieces and really fine-tuning them really has made this version far superior and a much better figure to have. Now, coming in to take a closer look at the figure, like I said, I never had a problem with the overall look for the figure. It was just a lot of the design choices really did limit the functionality of some things. I mean, this guy looks terrific. It absolutely does look like Wheelie in my opinion. But some of the biggest improvements, at least here in robot mode, come in the way that his knees are and now also his heels. He has two joints here at the knee, so you can actually get him to keep his legs straight. You also have these little tiny, putting it right here, you have these little heel spurs that come down and give some stability when you stand him. He stands perfectly fine. Now, bringing in the other one, as you can see, you only had one joint really, well, no, you had two joints, but you couldn't, for some reason, I don't know what the design reason is, but you can't get the legs straight. Getting these arms out of the way so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You can see how straight the new ones are compared to how they bend. And then the other thing is they don't have that heel spur here on the back. So you have a hard time getting them to stand. Let me see here. Get the arms down. It wants to, you can see, lean constantly back. So you have to lean them forward to get them to stand. And I mean, it's possible to do, but it was definitely not very functional and not very fun actually to even do. You can also see, just trying to show you this without doing too much, just how loose and kind of floppy these lower legs were. These legs are not moving at all. The legs stay perfectly still. That's a huge improvement. One other problem that he always had was you couldn't really move his legs forward at all. The way that the instructions would show you to transform him would have this little piece here kind of behind the little crotch section. You can't move it with the way that that is. And then, come on, stand. The new one now here actually has these little flaps that move forward, so you can actually move the leg forward. You do have the chest here, which is a little bit different of a color. You can take the included opaque one, and you can swap that out. You just come around here. I don't know if, there we go. I got this little tool right here. You can pop that out and make it go flying, and you can put that in there. Come on, there we go. So you could do something like that. It gives it a little bit more of that look that this had. But to be totally honest, I much prefer the other color. I just think that it looks a little bit nicer, so get that out of there. Oh, look, I can see the inside. So put that right there. I just think that that fits a little bit better. Upper thighs here now are die cast, which give it a real good versatility. The paint, as you can see, is basically the exact same. Not much of that changed, and obviously the sculpting is all pretty much the same. There's just minor tweaks to it, but I love the face on here. I mean, that absolutely has a very cool, wheelie kind of look. You do get those additional face plates if you want to change them, but honestly, bringing in one of those, I kind of hold it. I don't really see much of a difference, to be totally honest. Maybe this one here is smiling a little. It's so hard to tell because of how tiny they are. Maybe there's a little smirk on there, but you got nice blue eyes in there. Overall, like I said, just a much better looking representation of Wheelie than anything that we've ever gotten in terms of like a masterpiece scale. I really like the way this guy looks. Now, for his articulation, the head, because of the way that the actual helmet kind of thing is, you do get, it is on a ball joint, and you do get some up and down based on the little hinge that's kind of underneath it, but it is primarily on a ball joint, so you do actually get some pivot, some tilt. You can get him looking left and right, and it's all like mostly done because of that little tiny gap between his head and his body. You can get a lot of range of motion kind of with it, with that small little gap, and I don't think it really looks all that bad. The shoulders here are on hinges. I mean, it's kind of part of the transformation, so you got a little bit of a shoulder hinge there, but then you also do have a ball joint here, which gets a nice range of motion, but as you can see, you can really move it far kind of inward and get a cross body kind of pose with him. He also does have a upper bicep swivel. He's got two joints here at the elbow. You can see you got one, and basically gives it a 90-degree rotation. You can go that way, and then you got another one. And the wrists rotate. His fingers at the actual knuckles here do hinge forward and back. You come down here, he does rotate at the waist, but in doing so, it will kind of mess up some of the stuff here on the back of him a little bit, so just be careful as you're doing it. You can get some decent poses with it. Like you could see before, you can actually flex these little skirt pieces forward to get the legs moving forward. They move back, they move in and out, they rotate at the upper part of the thigh. Like I said, he basically has two joints here at the knee, but all you're really going to get is essentially a 90-degree rotation, but that extra joint really does help things in terms of straightening out his legs. The ankles, I guess you could say that he's got a little bit of toe pivot, and then you can move them side to side, get some nice kind of wide stances about that far or so, which you can't see because I'm all the way zoomed in. So you can get some decent poses with this guy with all this articulation. It is really nice. And like I said, the durability of the plastic is much improved. I don't feel like things are really going to break on this. And I think, honestly, he looks pretty good. Now, for a comparison, setting him there and bringing in another little mini bot, here he is next to the Masterpiece Bumblebee. And as you can see, at the head, he's actually a little bit smaller than Bumblebee, but still pretty good size. Now to transform him back, first you're going to come around here to these little forearm pieces, open that up, tuck the hand in just like that. Do that on the opposite side as well. Bring that around and tuck that in just like so. Come around here to the back section. This can be a little bit tricky to kind of get this loosened back up because it is fairly solid in there, but get these arms out of the way. You kind of just wiggle these side pieces out. There we go, and then you can kind of loosen it, not necessarily pulling it all the way out, but you can kind of get it a little bit looser where you can actually hinge this back out. Take the head, we're going to rotate that around, come on, there we go, and then swivel it down and tuck it into the back of the chest. Then you can take this whole section here and then again just swivel this out on that little rail joint thing, pull that out just like so. Do that on both sides. Kind of lift this piece up like that. These arms are going to just kind of angle these out just to get these out of the way, and then you take this section again, moving all this around just to kind of get some space for it, and then you can take these, tuck these in just like that, bring these down and tuck that into place like that. Do that on this side as well, and then swivel these little side pieces out, filling in that side section of the car. Let's see, get that there, just like that. And then you can just bring these in, and again, these little arms kind of get in the way, so once you get that there, rotate them around. It makes it a little bit easier, and again, you're just trying to make things simple for you as you're doing it. So get that there, and then you can bring this whole section down just like that, and then you're going to take these little pieces here, line these up and tab those along the side of the vehicle mode just like so. Keep that up out of the way. You got these now, you got these arms rotated around, you got those little posts on the arm that now will come in and lock into place along the side there. Do that on this side as well
locking that in. If you want to, you can then take this, at this point in time, take the little slingshot and you can put that right in there, something like that. There we go. And then you can tuck this down and in just like that. And now you have the back section done. You're going to take this, fold this little butt flap back, come down here, rotate these legs out and around. This whole thing does get a little bit tricky to actually do. You want to take the foot, rotate that, and then rotate this section out towards that section. And then let's see, you're going to rotate that and then spin that around just like that. So you're going to hinge it back and in on itself. I'll make sure you pull this out. I'm sorry. Rotate this piece out and then you hinge this back and in. But this part, this is where things can get a little bit tricky and hairy to get everything lined up proper. You really do have to kind of futz with this. I'll fold that down like that to kind of get things in here the way that it's supposed to be. It does get a little bit tricky, to be totally honest. Bring this section up, that tabs along the side, and then this foot, you just kind of wedge that in there, and then you can kind of wedge that there and then slot that in just like so. It does get a little bit tricky. There's no question about it, and you're kind of pushing to get things lined up. It's not a perfect fit, it seems. Sometimes you do have to really kind of manipulate things. And you're going to rotate this, keep that little knee section tucked in. I did it again here. So rotate this. Oh, you know what? One thing I did forget to do. I'm sorry, and that might be why I'm having some hard times here. You have to take this, when you get this, rotate this piece, the little foot thing, get that out of the way. That kind of clears things up a little bit on the side there. So I'm just going to leave that there. So again, take that little foot section, tuck that in there, rotate this piece all the way around. You're going to bring this, I keep forgetting that piece. Rotate that around, bring the foot in like that, and then hinge this. So now you got that. Gonna keep the leg straight. And again, here's where you're just kind of, it's keep those little pieces in. You're just kind of bringing it all in and futzing with it until you get everything properly lined up. Oh, we're getting close here. There you go. Bring this up. Tab that in. There we go. There we go. Look, I'm so proud of myself. Bring this up. Rotate this. Bring this up, and like I said, I cannot get these knee sections in. You use that double joint here for the knee and kind of get that pushed in. But when I push it in, it kind of creates some clearance issues up in here, and I can never get it right. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal for me because I'm going to be having him in robot mode the majority of the time. But when you're done, there you have him back in his vehicle form. And as you can see, the overall look in terms of both vehicle and robot mode looked great on the original. And that's still true with this second version. But the plastic quality, the engineering refinements, the overall functionality of everything on it works a lot better than it did on that first version. Now, it's still not a perfect figure, but it is far better than what we got before. The transformations still can get a little bit hairy, but in general, I think they did a pretty good job with it. So I'm very glad to have given XTransbots a second try with this. And that being said, I do really recommend this figure. He looks great on a masterpiece shelf. So if this is a figure that you'd be interested in adding to your collection, he is available right now at Big Bad Toy Store. So as always, all you have to do is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where you can check out availability on this guy as well as the rest of their third-party figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. It goes a long way towards helping me out. Also, be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you get instant email notifications whenever I upload a new video, and you never miss a future review of mine. And as always, until next time, be excellent to each other.